It's no huge revelation to say that a significant percentage of the entertainment industry, and in particular Hollywood, have ran out of ideas. It's not that there aren't any great ideas floating around or being produced. There's plenty. They just don't seem to have any interest in them. Whether that's down to fear and the never-ending need to make huge profits, or that they just want to cling on to IPs they already paid so much for so that they can milk every last drop from that sacred cow, or any other reason that you can just insert here, doesn't really matter. What matters is that we're all very tired of very tired ideas. And equally, if not more tired, of the smokescreens to deflect the legitimacy of our fatigue. For I don't actually remember how long, but it's definitely too long. Hollywood and the like have made a habit of rebooting, remaking, soft rebooting, rehashing, and just outright not even bothering to clarify what it actually is every prized piece of story real estate imaginable. It's reached a stage where you're not even sure if the last remake or reboot has already been remade or rebooted in the last 15 hours. Sometimes they'll rehash an idea barely a year after the last attempt failed, and it falls so far below anyone's radar, they just make another one within 6 months. Sometimes you'll stumble across a remake of a far superior product and suddenly remember that they actually made that. And you can't believe how long ago that was and how little impact it made on anything or anyone. But before you know it, despite the last remake making as much profit as a news organization with integrity, a new, updated and diverse reimagining will be coming to screens near you soon. As diversity and inclusion has increasingly become the hottest topic for online outrage, it often distracts people from the facts. Everyone gets so embroiled in the culture war exchanges on the platform of twattery that they forget what is actually going on. You know, Hollywood loves to remake stuff and pretend that it's a daring and revolutionary reimagining of stories and ideas and characters many love with great affection. They do this for a few reasons. Number 1, it makes it look like they're doing something new and imaginative. Number 2, it serves as a great distraction technique when people call them out for being lazy and churning out substandard products. Number 3, it combats any criticism by dismissing it all as an assault on their values, whilst ticking boxes and virtue signaling to a small minority of angry online voices who don't have any friends or moral framework. What usually happens is that they will remake something like, I don't know, Knight Rider. They already remade Knight Rider and it was panned by critics and it made losses. So what they did next was remake Knight Rider again, but this time Kit the Car is actually a non-binary Mongolian and Michael Knight is now called, now wait for it, Michelle Knight. The trailer drops, everyone watches it, and it's shit. So everyone slaps a dislike on it, raids Rotten Tomatoes to voice their opinion and make the mistake of voicing their discontent all over Twitter. Immediately, the studio, the stars and the director and the writer and so on go on the attack, insisting it's not the fact that this clearly looks shit is the reason for all the negative criticism, but it's basically because everyone who doesn't like it is an anti-vaxxer or a TERF or a racist or a Hitler Youth member. It doesn't really matter which one it is. All are just predetermined slurs that you select appropriately for whatever fits the narrative best. I expect there's a tombola somewhere that never gathers dust. This trend seemed to start with Ghostbusters. You know, the one with the birds in it. What was just a terrible trailer for an awful corporate nostalgia heist cash grab soon escalated into being the most divisive movie of that year and the front line for the ever-intensifying culture war. Though I'm sure some people said women aren't funny because, you know, it's true. But most people most likely didn't say that because Ghostbusters 2015 is a pile of pony, and that is objectively true. However, I don't think this was the first time this tactic was deployed, but it was perhaps the first time it was deployed semi-successfully. And I say semi because it didn't exactly prove to be a hit now, did it? But it did successfully create the narrative that gave a reason for why it was such a huge disaster. And this was because of misogyny and not because it was terrible. The first instance, I think, came from George Lucas when he was promoting a film he produced called Red Tails. Lucas insisted to Oprah Winfrey the reason studios didn't want to pick it up for distribution was because they were all racist, and not because the film was in fact not very good. And most likely because it was an original idea, and that was way too out there for any studio to even consider. Original ideas? Get fucked, George. This tactic from Lucas didn't help Red Tail's cause, but it did get Oprah on board, and some people went out of their way to watch it and defend it just because of the racial element. If it hadn't have had that little bit of racism thrown into the mix, it might have lost even more money than it already had. The thing is with Ghostbusters and those movies and shows, and whatever else followed, is that Hollywood and the rest believed it was good enough to reimagine a great and familiar idea by just swapping genders, or races, or even sexualities, and do nothing else. Some remakes and reboots literally follow the original idea beat for beat, and just replace pronouns in the dialogue, or just throw in some jive talk so that Sherlock Holmes can now sound like he or she's from Zone 6 in Atlanta. Everything else just remains the same. On occasions, they haven't even bothered doing that, like with the recent Charlie's Angels reboot, and still insisted that the reason why people hated it is because of misogyny, acting like the original must have come out in the future that they were trying to create with their bravery of cinematic excellence. You know, a future that sees a film with all female leads that is so successful they make a sequel. A future where Beyonce is still in Destiny's Child with Michelle, and Michelle doesn't beg her to make a reunion tour happen so she can feed her dying nan. There are just too many examples of this tactic being deployed, so just insert one you can remember here. It's come to be such common practice that now, even before the trailer is even released, the narrative is already constructed in press releases, articles and interviews. The most recent at the time of making this would be the Lord of the Rings TV series. I have no interest in going into the whole debate that surrounds this issue, so just know that this dwarf, and some other characters, caused a stink. The producers knew this would cause a stink. In fact, it was most likely integral to their marketing plan, because there's no better marketing plan than getting free marketing, and free marketing comes from the online outrage machine that fuels the algorithms of Twitter, YouTube, and God knows where else you go on. The producers actually went in on the attack before a single post, tweet, or even a video had hit the whole internet. They already had slurs in place to label every voice who quite rightly said, "Do something original, would ya?" Thing is, reimaginings of old beloved works can be very good. Scarface is a great example, as is John Carpenter's The Thing, and the career of Shakin' Stevens and Bruno Mars. However, those days seem to be long gone, because laziness and contempt for ideas and fans has replaced integrity and ingenuity. Instead, what we get is the Wonder Years remade, and they're all black. And that's it. That's literally all they do. It wouldn't be so bad if it was like a one-off thing in a different era, but it's happening now, in this era. It may be the greatest reimagining of all time, but no one wants to know, probably because they're all flat earthers. Nowadays, they'd remake Shaft, but Shaft will be a woman, or Polish, or be in a fucking wheelchair that's a little bit bi. They'll bring back Blind Date, but everyone will actually be blind. They'll remake Total Recall again, but this time Quaid will be an omnisexual Cambodian with 6 fingers on his left foot. It'll be exactly the same film with every moment you remember with fondness and joy from the original. Except now, all those wonderful moments are now shit. You'll be ever so disappointed, and even worse, that you'll be outcasted from society because you don't like shit things with diversity. You'll lose your job, and if you're Canadian, you'll lose your bank account and have your identity erased from all public records, and you'll be sold to the Chinese to clean their toilets at their Muslim summer camps of excellence. We now find ourselves not only being bored and tired of endless remakes and reboots, but also bored and tired of the new twists on the ideas. Not only are we bored and tired of old ideas with minute changes of characters, we're bored and tired of the same tactics used to blame the fans for those old and tired ideas failing. And even worse than that, we're bored and tired of old ideas with character identity swaps whose producers attack the fans for being bored and tired, and also bored and tired of the same old slurs used to shame those fans. Racist, bigot, transphobic, misogynist, Nazi, TERF, anti-vaxxer, gammon, and if I missed a couple, it's because I became bored and tired of writing about this nonsense. In fact, it's not just Hollywood and the general entertainment machine that does this. It's the newspapers, news channels, legacy media shows, and even governments. They try to sell a new war with the bored and tired idea that is fear. They can't even fearmonger us into war anymore, but they keep trying. And when you stand up and shout with conviction, "No more war! No more war!" they'll call you an anti-vaxxing turf child murderer and demand that Greggs fire you for spreading misinformation. The fact-checkers on Facebook will shame you publicly, announcing that your opinion that war is bad and kills countless innocent people is factually false. Because war is diverse and beautiful, and killing thousands of Middle Eastern school children is proven to end bigotry and prevent the spread of bird flu. I'm bored and tired of these boring and tired ideas that never seem to stop. I'm bored and tired of being bored and tired. That's why I'm joining a neo-Nazi group, because Twitter fact-checkers and blue checkmarks have already written a hit piece on me before I even finish writing this sentence. Stop boring and tiring us with all the boring and tiring things of the boring and tiring things that we're bored and tired of.